Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you are joining me. I am so happy that you are here. Hopefully, if you are watching this video, then you have gotten your book of the month, Bridge to Terabithia. Yesterday, I posted a video of reading the first chapter. So if this is your first time joining and you have not gotten a chance to watch that video or read chapter 1, pause this video, do that, so that way you are caught up with us. But we are going to start with chapter 2 for today. This video will just be chapter 2. Sometimes I'll read more than one chapter, but for today I'm just going to stick with one. So we are going to start on page 9. I also just want to remind you, this will be able to count as your 20 to 30 minutes of reading if you are doing this with me and following along, or at least just listening. Even if it's not for a full 20 minutes, it can still count as your reading for today. So if you have your book and you are wanting to follow along, go ahead and pull it out. If you need to go get it, pause the video, run and go get your book, and get in a comfortable place, and let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to start on chapter 2, which is on page 9, with Leslie Burke. Ellie and Brenda weren't back by 7. Jess had finished all the picking and helped his mother can the beans. She never canned anything except when it was scalding hot anyhow, and all the boiling had turned the kitchen into some sort of mess. Of course, her temper had been terrible, and she screamed at Jess all afternoon, and now was too tired to fix any supper. Jess made peanut butter sandwiches for the little girls and himself, and because the kitchen was still hot and almost nauseating, full of bean smell, the three of them went outside to eat. The U-Haul was still out by the Perkins place. He couldn't see anybody moving outside, so they must have finished unloading. I hope they have a girl, 6 or 7, said Maybelle. I need somebody to play with. You've got Joyce Ann. I hate Joyce Ann. She's nothing but a baby. Joyce Ann's lip went out. They both watched it tremble, and her pudgy body shuddered, and she let out a great cry. Who's teasing the baby? His mother yelled out of the screen door. Jess sighed and poked the last bit of his sandwich into Joyce Ann's open mouth. Her eyes went wide, and she clamped her jaw down on the unexpected gift. Now maybe he could have some peace. He closed the screen door gently as he entered and slipped past his mother, who was rocking herself in the kitchen chair watching TV. In the room he shared with the little ones, he dug under his mattress and pulled out his pad and pencils. Then, stomach down on the bed, he began to draw. The peace would start at the top of his muddled brain and seep through his tired, tensed-up body. Lord, he loved to draw. Animals mostly. Not regular animals like Miss Bessie or the chickens, but crazy animals with problems. For some reason, he liked to put beast into impossible fixes. This one was a hippopotamus, just leaving the edge of a cliff. Turning over and over, you could tell by the curving lines. In the air, toward the sea below, where the surprised fish were leaping, goggle-eyed out of the water. There was a balloon over the hippopotamus, where his head should have been, but his bottom actually was, saying, "Oh, it seems I have forgotten my glasses." Jess began to smile. If he had shown it to Maybelle, he would have to explain the joke, but once he did, she would laugh like an audience on TV. He would like to show his drawings to his dad, but he didn't dare. When he was in first grade, his dad told him that he had told his dad he wanted to be an artist when he grew up. But he thought his dad would be pleased. He wasn't. "What are they teaching you in that darn school?" he asked. "Bunch of old ladies turning my son into some kind of—" He stopped on the word, but Jess had gotten the message. It was one you didn't forget, even after 4 years. The devil of it was none of his regular teachers ever liked his drawing. When they'd catch him scribbling, they'd screech about waste. Wasted time, wasted paper, wasted ability. Except Miss Edmonds, the music teacher. She was the only one he dared to show anything to, and she'd only been at the school 1 year, and then only on Fridays. Miss Edmonds was his secret. He was in love with her. Not a silly kind of stuff Ellie and Brenda giggle about on the telephone. This was too real, too deep to even think about very much. Her long, swishy black hair and blue eyes. She could play the guitar like a regular recording star. And she had a soft, floating voice that made Jess squish inside. Lord, she was gorgeous. One day last winter, he had given her one of his pictures. Just shoved it into her hand after class and run. The next Friday, she asked him to stay a minute after class. She said that he was unusually talented. and she hoped he wouldn't let anything discourage him, but would keep it up. That meant Jess believed that she thought he was the best. It was not the kind of best that counted in school either or at home. It was the genuine kind of best. He kept the knowledge of it buried inside himself like a pirate treasure. He was rich, very rich, but no one else could know about it except his fellow outlaw, Julia Edmonds. Sounds like some kind of hippie, his mother said when Brenda, who had been in 7th grade last year, described Miss Edmonds to her. She probably was, Jess couldn't argue that, but he saw her as a beautiful, wild creature who had been caught up in the moment of that dirty old cage of a schoolhouse. Perhaps by mistake, but he had hoped, he prayed, that she'd never get loose and fly away. He managed to endure the whole boring week of school for that half an hour on Friday afternoons where they'd sit on the worn-out rug on the floor of the teacher's room. There was no place else in the building for Miss Edmonds to spread out all her stuff, and sing songs like My Beautiful Balloon, This Land Is Your Land, Feel Free to Be You and Me, Blowing in the Wind, and because Mr. Turner, the principal, insisted, God Bless America. Miss Edmonds would play her guitar and the kids would take turns on the auto harp, the triangles, cymbals, trombones, bongo drum. Lord, they could make a racket. All the teachers hated Fridays, and a lot of kids pretended to. But Jess knew what fakes they were, sniffing hippie and peacenik. Even though the Vietnam War was over, it was supposed to be okay to like peace again, and the kids would make fun of Miss Edmonds' lack of lipstick and her cuts in her jeans. She, of course, was the only female teacher anyone had ever seen in Lark Creek Elementary wearing pants. In Washington and its fancy suburbs, even Millsburg, it was okay, but in Lark Creek, it was a backwash of fashion. It took them a long time to accept there what everyone could see by their TVs was okay anywhere else. So the students of Lark Creek sat at their desk all Friday, their hearts thumping with anticipation as they listened to the joyful pandemonium pouring from the teachers' rooms, spent their allotted half hours with Miss Edmonds under her spell of wild beauty and in the snare of her enthusiasm, and then went on to pretend that they couldn't be suckered by some hippie in tight jeans with makeup all over her eyes but not on her mouth. Jess would keep his mouth shut. It wouldn't help to try and defend Miss Edmond against their unjust and hypocritical attacks. Besides, she was beyond such stupid behavior. It couldn't touch her. But whenever possible, he stole a few minutes on Friday just to stand close and to hear her voice soft and smooth as suede, assuring him that he was a neat kid. We're alike, Jess told himself, me and Miss Edmonds, beautiful Julia. The syllables rolled through his head like a rippled guitar chord. We don't belong in Clark Creek, Julia and me. You're the proverbial diamond in the rough, she had told him once, touching his nose lightly with the tip of her finger. But it was she who was the diamond, sparkling out of muddy, grassless, dirty brick setting. Jessie! Jess shoved the pad and pencils under his mattress and laid flat with his heart thumping against the quilt. His mother was at the door. You milk yet? He jumped off the bed. Just going to. He dodged around her and out, grabbing the pail beside the sink and the stool beside the door before she could ask what he had been up to. Lights were winking from all 3 floors of the old Perkins place. It was nearly dark. Miss Bessie's bag was tight, and she was fidgeting with discomfort. She should have been milked hours ago. He eased himself onto the stool and began to tug. The warm milk pinged to the pail. Down on the road on an occasional truck passed by its timbers on. His dad would be home soon, and so would those cagey girls, who somehow managed to have all the fun and leave him and their mother with all the work. He wondered what they had bought with all their money. Lord, he would get anything to have a new pad of real art paper and the set of marking pens, colors pouring out of onto the page as fast as you could think. Not the stubby school crayons you press down on till someone complains about you breaking them. A car turned in. It was the Timmons. The girls had beat Dad home. Jess could hear their happy calls as the car door slammed. Mama would fix them supper, and then when he went in with the milk, he'd find them all laughing and chattering. Mama had even forgotten that she was tired and mad. He was the only one who had to take that stuff. Sometimes he felt so lonely among all these females. Even one rooster had died, and he hadn't got another. With his father gone from sunup until way past dark, who was there to know how he felt? Weekends weren't any better. His dad was so tired from the wear and tear of the week and trying to catch up around the place that when he wasn't actually working, he was sleeping in front of the TV. Hey, Jessie, Maybelle, the dumb kid, wouldn't let you think privately. What do you want now? He watched her shrink 2 sizes. I've got something to tell you. She hung her head. You ought to be in bed, he said huffily, mad at himself for cutting her down. Ellie and Brenda came home. Why couldn't he quit picking on her? But her news was too delicious to let him stop sharing. Ellie bought herself an inappropriate blouse, and Mama's throwing a fit. Good, he thought. That ain't nothing to cheer about, he said. Daddy! Maybelle screamed with delight and started running from the road. Jess watched his dad stop the truck, lean over to unlatch the door so Maybelle could climb in. He turned away. Darn lucky kid. She could run after him and grab him and kiss him. It made Jess ache inside to watch his dad grab the little ones to his shoulder or lean down and hug them. It seemed to him that he had thought he was too big for that since the day he was born. But when the pail was full, he gave Miss Bessie a pat to move away. Putting the stool under his left arm, he carried the heavy pail carefully so none of the milk would splot out. Mighty late for you to be milking, aren't you, son? It was the only thing his father said directly to him all evening. The next morning, he almost didn't get up with the sound of the pickup. He could feel, even before he was fully awake, how tired he was. But Maybelle was grinning at him, propped up on one elbow. Ain't you gonna run? She asked. No, he said, shoving the sheets away. I'm gonna fly. Because he was more tired than usual, he had to push himself harder. He pretended that Wayne Pettis was there, just ahead of him, and he had to keep up. His feet pounded the uneven ground, and he thrashed his arms harder and harder. He'd catch him. Watch out, Wayne Pettis, he said between his teeth. I'll get you. You can't beat me. If you're so afraid of the cows, the voice said, why don't you just climb the fence? He paused in mid-air like a stop-action TV shot and turned, almost losing his balance to face the questioner, who was sitting on the fence nearest the old Perkins place, dangling bare brown legs. The person had jaggedy brown cut hair close to its face and wore a blue undershirt like tops with faded jeans cut above the knees. He couldn't honestly tell if it was a boy or a girl. Hi, he or she said, jerking his or her head towards the Perkins place. We just moved in. Just stood where he was, staring. The person slid off the fence and came towards him. I thought we might as well be friends, it said. There's no one close by. Girl, he decided, definitely a girl. But he couldn't have said why he was suddenly sure. She was about his height. Not quite, though. He was pleased to realize as she came nearer. My name's Leslie Burke. She had one of those dumb names that could go either way, but he was now sure that he was right. What's the matter? Huh? Is something the matter? Yeah, no, he pointed his thumb in the direction of his own house and then wiped his hair off his forehead. Just errands. Too bad Maybelle's girl came in the wrong size. Well, he nodded at her. See you, and he turned toward their house. No use trying to run any more this morning. Might as well milk Bessie and get that out of the way. Hey! Leslie was standing in the middle of the cow field, and her head tilted and her hands on her hips. Where are you going? I got work to do, he called back from over his shoulder, and when he came out later with the pail and stool, she was gone. So that is going to be it for today. If you are wanting to go ahead and keep reading, you can, but I will post chapter 3 tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow morning. That's my goal. But we will keep reading Bridge to Terabithia, and I hope that you are enjoying this book as much as I am. If you have any questions or you want to talk about the book, please just send me a message. I would love to know what y'all are doing and what y'all are thinking of it. But if not, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.